orientation, all those links that I posted and shared on different places were useless because I had to delete that live because for some reason I couldn't differentiate or rotate the screen, I should say. So, is anyone out there? How am I going to share this? Fucking hell. Yeah, open. People there. Yo, Max Freedom, awesome. I stuffed up that original link because I couldn't change the orientation of the screen and it was sitting upright. But, so all those links that I shared and tried to post and get people to watch, waste of time because I had to delete it. Couldn't rotate it while it was on recording. Absolutely. You probably heard me curse and swear and carry on. Anyway, I was going to try not to make this a swearing event as we're at the climate change event. I'm just going to post this to just disappeared. It's cases like this I need two phones so I can ring people and say, hey, is that working? So Richie, I think you were out there. Is the audio working on this, mate? Do you know audio's working? After the glitches I just had, I'm not sure if I'm going to have another glitch. Get to start afresh. Loud and clear. Awesome, mate. I've got a couple of extra mics in here to swap out too. So I was hoping to be able to swap out and check out some different mics. I'm devastated on that because I'm only new to live streaming and obviously I'll go for a walk because it's not started yet, but I wanted to get pre-started. We'll go for a walk around. I don't know if am I allowed to film around here because it is a live event. Maybe I've got to stick to the main room. So maybe I should just stick to the main room. Maybe I shouldn't go into the public areas. I'm not sure. I'll just film as we go past. I won't go out there, but I'll just film. Might as well get some trophies, do a bit of a walk around for you, have a look at this RSL. Again, the debate hasn't started and I am fuming. I'll tell you there's a number of reasons why I'm fuming. I left work today at 4 o'clock normal time, had my phone on charge all afternoon just to make sure I had full power, ready to go. And what happens? I get all the way home, go to look for my phone, I left it at work on the charger. So to drive all the way back to work, all the way back home with a 2-hour turnaround window to try and get here and get ready. Because of that, I was flustered, I was mad, I was angry, I was actually cursing myself big time. Anyway, good signal now. Thanks, Max. I might cut some of this when I go to the... I don't know how to do live still properly. Like, I don't know how to do the... It says where you can trim it and all this stuff, but I figure I might as well go live, get it started. So hang into the course. Hang in throughout the course of the night, guys, and I'll try and get some info. I've got to obviously shut up when the debate's going on, so I'll keep it a little bit low key. And if I have to come out the back and commentate, I'll just come out here and whisper like this. So right now I'm close to the microphone, close proximity, and right now I'm whispering to the mic. Thank you. This is another Hang Loose Recluse live broadcast. Karen Scorpion encourages the Q and Shaggy all watching front seat, mate. Awesome, thanks guys. Cheers, appreciate it. And again, I value good audio. I wish I could take a photo of the rig. Actually, where's a mirror? I'm going to show you the mirror while I've got a camera crew watching. Have a look at my rig. Where's a mirror? Can't find one. It's hard. I'm trying to find something. I can't. Because I've got a couple of mics. I've got a Rode NTG2 poking out the front, and I've got the Rode Video Mic Go 2 pointing towards me. I could swap out and put a lavalier on my chest to make it a bit more personable. Is that the right word? So I don't have to lean over into the microphone, so I can just talk anytime, but I'm leaning over into the mic to talk into it. It's probably a good thing, actually. Looking forward to this, just something to practice live streaming and just hear what's going on, and it's an official event, I suppose, so good to get the old Hang Loose Recluse voice box loose, if you know what I mean. Absolutely, talking for the sake of talking. I'm just going to put this phone down. The tripod. So I've got it on a tripod, got it on a frame, got 2 mics mounted up, cables everywhere, power bank, got to make sure reminder, power bank's on. She's running. I'm putting it down so it's stable. I'm going to adjust the head on this. It's on a little mini tripod. There we go. Just been rolling. All right, I feel like a barfly back here. I'm leaning over I'll show you what I'm doing.
Lean it over the stool here like this. Now I've got a big Rode video mic on the front there. Yes, I'm a baldy today. Because we're at an RSL, you can't wear a hat. I love the hat. I've got my glasses on for good measure because I'm at the RSL, so I figure I better look like an oldie. Anyway,
Just so you know, I might even test out my little light. I will. I'm going to test my light out. What's going on? Later on, I'll probably chuck the camera up the front in a nice spot when the debate's firing and just let the thing pick up audio and whatnot, and I'll go for a wander.
g'day guys, testing out the light there. I forgot to check the brightness settings on the light. Now I'm looking at the microphone, but I should be looking at the camera. There's no screen to monitor. Right now I'm looking at the light. Light test. Light test. Microphone up the top. Microphone test. Hopefully you heard me there.
Did you hear me from that distance? Because obviously it's a shotgun mic pointing right across the top. But we'll see. But this light's not going to stay on. Oh, I don't want it on 100% if it is. Even though it says I'll get 1.2 hours life out of that. We'll turn it down a bit. And I do need to flick it on. And I can turn it off. Light is now currently officially off. 5 people watching. Okay. That's all right, considering I didn't. I had to delete the original post that I had. Unbelievable. Could not believe that. Once I started recording, it was. You probably heard me swearing and carrying on. I don't know what came out on that one, but it was saying once recording starts, orientation is locked. Anyway, so annoying. All right, I couldn't hear too well at that distance. The lighting was fine. All right, what I'll do, because I'm kind of whispering a little bit, so I'll just go to the front of it again and I'll just talk as if I'm talking to people at the table.
Righto guys, without looking like too much of an idiot talking to myself, well I'm actually talking to a camera. I've raised the voice up now, just checking to make sure that you guys can hear this okay at this volume. I'm not going to talk like this through the camera as we go because it'll be a bit obnoxious at the event. So I'm just testing the mic now to make sure that anyone that does want to talk in front of it at this level, at this distance, it's going to work out all right. Should work out all right. I have done some testing.
Please let me know. How did that go? Is that all right? Okay, I can barely hear me. Jesus. What about now, mate? That's terrible. Why can you barely hear me? What's going on there? All right, so that can barely hear me was when I was whispering, was it? So now that I was talking in front of the camera loud, you could hear that. All right, that was raising the voice. Not good in front, like when you're behind. Yeah, because I've got a mic back here, so I might have to change a mic out just to. Yeah, no worries, Al. Thanks, buddy. I might, while we're not running, I'll change mics on the front. Just tell me what you guys reckon, all right? I'm going to switch a mic out. Well, the reason I've got that mic on the front is to pick up the audio for the PA, so I'm hoping that the PA will be justice enough for it. But I will switch one out just to see if we can get a difference here and see what you reckon. I'm going to swap one around and just see what you think. All right, bear with us while I unplug one. There's one mic unplugged, so there's still one mic plugged in there. That's it. Getting another one plugged in. And that's got another mic on the front now, so I'll go around and test that one in a minute. Go back here. Go back to that table.
Right, this is with a different microphone, so let's see if that makes a difference. This one's got more gain on it. Ultimately, I would like to put a mixer on the unit we've got here, but I never had too much time to set this up. Yeah, I've got a little mixer that goes on and I can crank the volumes and mix everything up a bit better, but I was kind of rushing a little bit today.
How's that? Was that different to the last take? No, worse, all right. All right, but not now. Obviously, I've got the other one, so it's a directional mic, so when the PA and all that sort of starts, it should pick up people. So let's test it. I was testing this around the house yesterday with the podcast running, just walking around the house, back and forward. I'm going to unplug one, just bear with me. didn't bring the wireless with me. I was meant to, but because I stuffed up and lost time when I left my phone at work, had to go back to work to get it because I needed my phone because I couldn't do this event without my phone. I've only ever left my phone there twice overnight, but normally I would just leave it there overnight and get it the next day. But I left it. You know, last week I left my phone. Oh, in 2 weeks I left my phone at home 3 times, and that's pretty uncommon in this day and age. Like, people can't leave their house without their phone, but I went to work anyway. What's going on? Shoot. Right, there's people, the good folk, starting to build up, ready for the debate. I might interview someone, see if... Hey mate, do you mind if I interview you and see if people can hear what's going on? So if I point this at you and just you talk, just so people can hear it. How you going, mate? What brings you here today?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm here because one of the speakers is my brother, and I'm obviously the partisan on.
Yeah.
Is this enough to get?
Yeah, that should be enough. What do you? Did you hear what the guy said there, guys? Because hopefully you've heard that, and yeah, because I've got the other mic back on now. Let's see what happens. The other was better. All right, time to swap out again. All right, I'm going to swap everything over. Tell you what I'm going to do. What's this? Can hear the question but not the answer. Jeez, that's terrible. All right, I'm going to fix something. It's terrible if you can't hear the answer.
Thanks for coming, mate.
Yeah, no worries, buddy.
I had a chance to yak to you and stuff.
Yeah, that's all good. You're
maybe-
live now, just so you know. But no, you can talk, keep talking. You
Yeah, no,
right?
well, I'm sure we'll get a chance.
Yeah, no worries. Too easy, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks. That was Norm. I think that was Norm, the guy who invited me to the event. So yeah, got Freedom Media here as well, and also Hang Loose Recluse. So it's a juice. I'm just going to plug one mic. That's one mic plugged in, guys. Just going to plug another one in. Alright, that mic's in, that mic's not in. So where's this one? Where's the into that? Mine's bad. Alright, now, oops. How's that, guys? Let's check 1, 2, right? Can you hear me now? I've swapped out microphones. So I did have the Rode NTG, the Rode Mic Go 2. Anyway, I won't get too technical about the mic talk. I'm plugging cables to get things off screen for you. How's that? Can anyone hear me? That mic is good. All right, he's saying that mic's good. All right, interesting. They're all the same brand too, just different. What do you call it? Different. What do you call? There's one of the speakers. I forget her name. Joe Voss. I can't remember it anyway. All right, so you reckon that's better? I'll just do a little test over here, just with the other mic on the front. All right, here we go.
So this is talking like it was before from the other.
Sorry. Sorry everyone for me unprofessionalism, but you are getting Hang Loose Recluse. I'm rocking a few too many F-bombs, I think, especially in an RSL. It's very disrespectful. Sorry, I do apologise. Alright, that's pointed up a bit better.
I'm just frustrated because, you know, you want this stuff to work. You just want it to go. How's that?
Now I can only see comments when I'm behind the screen, so if you could let me know. Was that all right? Was that okay? Anybody? All right, they're going to start soon. Got to get rid of me bag. Put it over here. Hey mate, I'll just ask you a simple question. Was the weather good today? Was the weather good today?
It was average weather.
Average. Was it raining or was it rain or hail or sunshine?
I think it was clear.
Awesome, thanks mate. Hopefully that works out all right. So let us know, guys, if that worked out okay. I got a thumb up there from Al. Sounds good for me. All right, so I've found the best mic combination for this, and this is the one I was going to go with. But these are the cheapest mics that I got from the Rode. These are 2 Rode Video Micros. I'm running 2 of the same mic. These are only like $79 each or something like that. And surprisingly, it works. The best church of sausageology. Cheers, mate. I might just get a little pan around, just have a look before the debate starts. Just before it does, just so you can see the gear that's going on. Sorry. There's the people at the event, the good folk. Yeah, the cheap one seems to work. You know why? Because I think its push is a bit hotter than the other ones. The other ones are more designed for capturing with preamps and stuff. Well, I've got no proper preamp other than the phone on this, so it's only using the phone preamp, or you know, the phone power to push it through. Whereas these ones run a little bit hotter because they're designed for phones. So maybe that's it. Yeah, church of sausageology. Good comment. I like that one. It made me laugh. But we are at the RSL. Always remember that. You're always going to get a 90 to 10 ratio. 90% grey hair, 10% coloured hair. Thank you. I've got a little hidden spot back here. I'm in between. There's Freedom Media over there doing the thing. Special thanks to everybody involved in this event. Have a look at this. There's my little hiding spot. Yeah, make sure I'm charging. All right. Like I say, once it gets rolling, I'll find a nice spot to put the camera. Tony Heller has a brilliant channel that debunks the whole hoax and more. Tony Heller has a brilliant channel and that debates the whole hoax and more. Tony Heller, anyone get that? Check him out. I'll be checking him out, but I'll be having to read the comments afterwards to find out about it. As people are building up. And again, once they're debating, I have to be quiet and respectful. So if I do want to commentate, I'll have to go to the back corner. But right now, whispering into the microphone. I'm sure you can hear me because I have tested these mics for up close proximity, whispering and testing. And there's a screen over there for the good folk to see. I might go over there and just have a quick film of it, just to show you what it is. There it is. I don't know if you can see it over there, straight in the middle of the screen. That is going to transition between a few different cameras for the folk here to see. If you think they don't manipulate the weather, can't help you. Yes, can even hear the whisper now. Very good. All right, interesting to hear, guys. I'm definitely going to resort back to the Rode Video Micro mics for this because they just seem to work the best for this scenario. And I have tested them, and I'm sounding like a broken record. Yes. But that was frustration of trying to get this rig up and running and happening. As we're just waiting for the event to start. I worry about getting off this YouTube screen to check to make sure that my phone is actually charging, because I've got mics plugged into it with an adapter. So I'm using it's an old iPhone X, it's a Lightning output, and I've converted that into a Belkin dual thing. Here we go, we're going to start.
Okay, welcome to the first in what I hope will be a series of debates I'm calling the Open Society Debates. Hosted by our group, Philosophy and Reason, that meet up on Twitter. A reminder that the debates are being recorded, so please don't keep your nose. Here and should be at work or something like the next day. Let it be resolved that man-made climate change is real. The science is done, and we must act now. That is the mood for the debate. Our fantastic speakers tonight will be introduced by Professor Shaw. I want to start with a few things. First,
Get a bit closer.
thank you. I want to use to you. I want to thank you for being here because being here means you're here to listen. And for me, Brigitte will explain our purpose for our philosophy group, but the fact that you are here, the fact that you are here and you're here to listen is what I'm thankful for. Next, I want to thank our speakers, John, Ian, David and Joe. They will be introduced to you formally, but I ask that you give them a round of applause right now. Our thanks to them for giving us their time so we might learn and progress, because that's what we want to achieve. I'd also like to thank my co-conspirator in plotting our group, Brigitte, our moderator for the night. She's a brilliant woman, and I love every discussion I have with her. Thanks, Brigitte. A special thank you needs to go out to Lindsay and his team, Ali and Clayton from Freedom Media WA. Not only are they streaming tonight's event, but they are serving us all through their tireless efforts to report news independently. A media source that can't be bought and that won't deal in favours. And so I encourage you to give Lindsay and his team a round of applause. You can find them, like and subscribe to them on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, and they also have a website, freedommediawa.org. I also need to thank the others who have assisted me here tonight. Wes, Tom, Peaches, Paul Jones, like we've made. The Belmont RSL for making this facility available to us, and also my darling wife, who's out there on the front desk. We're here to listen, so please, I'll hand you over to the moderator for our debate, and we can get into it.
Thanks for the wonderful introduction. I'm not sure I really deserve all these wonderful compliments. You will see that I'm not a professional moderator at all in no time, but I'll try my best to get us through as much as I can. Please, briefly, what is our philosophy for our discussion?
Can you speak up, please? Sorry, we just got some people in the back that can't hear. Sorry.
Okay, I try. I'm already speaking into the microphone. Yeah, I can hear myself. Okay, I have to go closer. Okay. All right. Briefly, the purpose of our group. Can everybody hear me now? Yeah, good. We come together every second week in different topics. We came up with this topic, our climate change topic, and it was Norm who had suggested that should discuss bigger, with more expertise, and not just in a small circle. And this is now what is the result of this. So I'm very pleased to see that, the interest here. The objective of our group is a free, open, uncensored debate. That is vitally important for us. For that reason, we do not kind of try to look into one direction of a debate only, and our podium tonight reflects that. We believe that debate is only meaningful if it is open and if nothing is off the table. So very often we see that topics become very, very quickly politicized. The media take all of it, and then all of a sudden nothing happens anymore when it comes to the two directions of debate. So we hope we can do this different tonight, and for that reason we have obviously an interesting group of people here to talk about this. We hope, in general, that debate is here for learning. We believe that debate is a way of learning and seeing views which we otherwise might not be able to see. That is really here now, that is at least our objective. And I personally am a big believer in order to understand people's viewpoints, we need to talk about them and not just surround ourselves with people who are thinking like ourselves. I think we all are guilty of this. I am. I rather read what I already know, what already appeals to me, but I believe that a variety of views makes better sense. I would like to ask everybody tonight, when you hear arguments from different views, that keep any potential frustration at bay. With other words, let's be civilized, let's be kind, let's be nice, professional, and I believe that simple impulse control will do the trick here. So please let's do that. So just in case you find yourself frustrated, don't call out, certainly don't call names, and that appeals to absolutely everybody. So make it pleasant, let's make that a pleasant evening. Very quickly, I will introduce very briefly all our, every speaker, and I have, even if I have either been given information from our speakers themselves, or I found something on official sources on the internet. I will read this to you in order to make, not forgetting anything. There are all speakers with high credentials and expertise. We have then the opportunity to listen to every speaker for 6 minutes only, unfortunately, very short, so that everybody has a chance to bring a point forward. After this, every speaker has again 3 minutes where they have the opportunity to rebuttal what they have heard from the other speakers. So in a somehow TV debate setting. And I have the opportunity, I have the task, unfortunately, to limit every speaker to the 6 minutes or 3 minutes later on. What we then have, we have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity, to ask questions to the panel here. And so we come around and we ask questions. Please make sure that you name the speaker you want that question to answer. If you have an idea about this would be good. So no one goes around and will ask this question, comes with the microphone, or you come to the microphone and ask the questions you have. And then hopefully you have the opportunity to get the answers you're looking for. I have also to remind the speakers that these answers and later on have to be relatively short, so that we have a lot of opportunity to get many questions. This is basically what my task is. I will now read to you, in the order of their appearance, so to speak, a little bit about our speakers. You will hear first Professor Peter Newman. Peter Newman is the John Curtin Distinguished Professor at the Sustainable Policy Institute School of Design and Built Environment at Curtin University in Perth. He has worked in this academic field since 1974, commencing at a founding lecture for the subject at Murdoch University and changing to Curtin in 2007. Peter is an academic who has written 20 books and over 350 papers on sustainable cities with a global reputation, and has worked to deliver his ideas in all levels of government. Peter has worked in local government as an elected councillor in Fremantle, in Western Australia's state government as an advisor to 3 premiers, and in the Australian government on the board of Infrastructure of Australia on the Prime Minister's Cities Reference Group. He's a coordinating lead author for the UN's IPCC on transport. In 1988, which has now 195 member countries. Okay. In 2014, he was awarded an Order of Australia for the contributions to urban design and sustainable transport, particularly for his work in saving and rebuilding Perth's rail system in 2018-2019. He was the Western Australian Scientist of the Year given by the Western Australian Premier. He is the editor-in-chief of the Springer Journal Sustainable Earth. This is our first speaker. And
I'm just going to move the table around, so it's going to be wobbly. I'm trying to set up a tripod.
to our second speaker. Right now. This is Joanne Nova. She is a science communicator with qualifications in science from the University of Western Australia and science communication from the Australian National University. Joanne is an award-winning blogger and has written articles for The Spectator and The Australian. She's been a keynote speaker and a TV host and has done over 200 radio interviews. She toured Australia for 5 years with the Shell Crestapong Science Circus and was an associate lecturer in science communication at the Australian National University. Over 2 million people have visited her science blog. She is the winner of the Lifetime Achievement Bloggies Award in 2014 and the Best Australian and New Zealand Blog Award in 2012. She started blogging on global warming in 2008, and her blog is now the third biggest skeptics website in the world. Joanne runs a Science Speak, a private scientific modeling and mathematical research company with her husband, Dr. David Evans, an engineer and mathematician. Together, they solve problems and speak about science topics and economic issues. Okay. Our third speaker is Ian Johnson. Now we have a politician amongst us. He is a councillor-elect for the city of Swan. He was elected in 2015, and Ian has lived in Guildford ever since 2007. He is involved in the community as a member of the Guildford Association, the Midland Ascension Church, I'm not sure, forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, the Midland Districts Community Group and other groups, including serving as a volunteer firefighter. He's independent and not a member of any political party. Ian works as a computer software project manager, which involved working for a period of time in Midland. Ian was involved in the City of Swan's decision to declare a state of climate change emergency in 2019. He will be able to contribute to the panel how a practical approach to climate change looks like on a community political level. And now our last speaker. This is David Archibald, here to my left. David Archibald is a scientist operating in the fields of cancer research, oil exploration, climate science, and a number of other substantial topics. He has published several books and articles on his many interests, which include, but by no means are limited to, climate science. David has given lectures on climate science in the US Senate in 2011 and 2013. He had major engagements as a petroleum geologist and was hired as expert witness in his capacity on a number of occasions, including the High Court of Australia. In the cancer field trials on formulation, he invented with professor from Purdue University, Indiana. They are currently underway at Queensland University. I think I've missed something here. So trials are currently underway. Trials are currently underway at Queensland University. In the field of oil exploration, David has a vast theoretical and practical expertise, which clearly will benefit our discussion tonight. David is a climate change ideology critic who has been named and ranked as a realist scientist on numerous occasions. He has spoken out in many contexts, too many to mention them all here. On a somewhat unrelated matter, but I found that important to share. To our purpose tonight, David studied German, Russian, and Mandarin at a university level, and according to his own statement, remembers nothing. He's also hated by the ABC, and David claims that this sentiment is mutual. Thank you very much. I will now ask our first speaker. At the moment, I will give the signal. I will be counting then the 6 minutes. So please, Professor Newman, if you would come to the podium.
Come on, stars. Right. So the three things: man-made climate change is real, the science is done, we must act now. The real reality, I mean, we all have our own realities. I don't particularly like the Twitterverse reality, but nature is a reality, and nature is talking to us pretty clearly now, and certainly around the world, the floods and fires, the unprecedented changes in climate are showing us that climate change is real. Man-made? Well, in the IPCC, the statisticians look at all the different things that could be causing it. There's only 1 in 100,000 chance that it could not be man-made. So I think the science is done. Let me just show you what we do in the IPCC. Oh, that is one of the books that we produced that I was part of. I've been involved for 10 years in IPCC. There are about 7,000 scientists who get involved. We are all volunteers. We are not paid to do this. And this particular one that we've just finished, the mitigation report that's just come out, there were 65 countries represented, 278 writers. We reviewed comments from 59,000 different people, and every question was answered. So what we do is make sure that the science is right, and every single thing that is raised we look at. If you don't have time to read a book like that, and really who does, there are plenty of ways of getting summaries of it. There's one very good website that I like. It's called Skeptical Science, which looks at all the myths about whether the science is clear or not. For example, David has 17 myths that are analysed on that site, and that's the kind of thing that it does. But I don't want to spend time on that, because the key thing for me is we must act now. Actually, I don't quite like that statement because it makes it seem like we haven't started and that it's all very, very hard. I've been involved in this, in the changes that are needed for some time, and there's so much happening, it's as though it's almost beyond belief, the changes that are happening now so rapidly. So my message is don't despair, don't be anxious about it, because there is enormous change happening. Let me tell you a few things. Solar is now the cheapest form of energy the world has ever known. Even 5-8 years ago, to put solar on your rooftop, 6 kilowatts would cost you $20,000. It now costs $2,000. It's come down around 90% in 10 years. So the second thing is that gas is now the most expensive form of electricity. And the second most expensive is nuclear. So you can see why the utilities are desperately changing to using solar and wind. Batteries and electric vehicles are following the same trajectory down, very rapid declines as they become more and more available to us. So when you put solar batteries and EVs together, you can get rid of 80% of the greenhouse gases, and it's cheaper and it's more effective. So why wouldn't we? It is happening now. Now we do need to do other things, and over the next 10 years a lot of new things with hydrogen and ways of feeding cows seaweed and so on, but the big thing driving it is there's $170 trillion in the finance world available only for net zero projects. So everything has to go net zero. So all of our mining companies, they're all switching very quickly. And that is the kind of process that's setting in that is driving it. Not just by governments, but by money, because it's cheaper and better. That's a big change. Now what about WA? Are we going to be a leader or laggard in this? My sense is we are already a leader. The lithium that is used for lithium-ion batteries around the world, half of it comes from Western Australia, and that is growing rapidly. There are 8 new lithium mines started up, and it's a boutique kind of mining operation, so it's a lot easier to actually treat it, process it here. So we've got 3 new processing plants started up, 2 in Kwinana, 1 in Kwinana, in Kemerton, which are processing to 99.99% pure lithium hydroxide, sending it straight to battery manufacturers. We've never done anything like that before with our minerals. That's the kind of thing that is happening because we've got all the battery minerals here. Now there is a bit of a myth around that we're going to run out of battery minerals. For some reason, the limits to growth is being suggested as being applying to that. It never did before, but this is coming from oil companies. It is very important to see that we are going to make that. And the final thing is, last weekend, we broke the world record in how much solar from rooftops is going into the grid, 71%. We have so much rooftop solar happening here that it is showing the world that you can change quickly. So I think we can show the world how to change, and there's no reason for us to be depressed about that. Thank you.
Sorry. The next speaker. Now, and I'll be able to see the slides or? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The climate debate is at a strange point, and part of that is that
I've got 6 minutes and I'm going to have to debunk 20 years of propaganda, so there's a challenge, strap yourself in. We're at a strange point in this debate, and I did have a slide there of windmills, because we're at the point where as a society we're suggesting we're going to build lots of windmills, we're going to spend billions of dollars, and we have already spent billions of dollars, and the reason we're doing that is because we're hoping it will slow storms for our grandchildren 100 years from now. If we build enough, if we put enough solar panels on, will it stop floods in Bangladesh? How many panels do you think we need? It's a tricky question, and not many people join the ends of this debate together. Now, I want to go back to the start, which is the evidence. If we're going to spend billions of dollars, why don't we look at the question really hard? Is CO2 really affecting the climate? Because everything depends on that. And there's an enormous industry. There's $270 billion of carbon trading around the world. There's $770 billion in investments in the renewable transition. How much is invested in figuring out whether the climate models work, whether CO2 matters, whether CO2 really is the prime driver? Now, a lot of the things you'll see in this debate are down to name calling. If the evidence is so overwhelming, why does anyone have to resort to the term climate denier? Now, and I'm glad to see, of course, Professor Newman didn't do that tonight, which is great, but it is a common thing in the debate, isn't it? We hear it all the time. A lot of this debate is about bluff. It's about convincing you through righteous indignation that you shouldn't have any other opinion or ask any hard questions. So, even Nature, can you believe, supposedly the most esteemed science journal, has published papers of lists of scientists who get too many mentions in the media. It's a blacklist, a suggestion of those who should not be heard. I'm on it, David Archibald's on it, my husband David Evans is on it. Isn't it about who's got the best arguments and not who's got the right to be heard in the media? Shouldn't the media be covering the people with the best points? Not the people with the most papers necessarily, but the points that win the debate. Now, they'll tell you there's a consensus, and there certainly is, I won't deny that, but that's argument from authority. So we've moved from an ad hominem argument, because we're here in the philosophy and reason group. We've moved from the ad homs, calling people deniers, trying to intimidate them into silence, to there's a consensus, which is argument from authority. And we've known for 2,000 years that this is not the way to reason. And we also know that argument from authority or a consensus could be a proxy for the amount of funding that you've put into one side of the debate. Ladies and gentlemen, we paid to find a crisis, and we got what we paid for. If you spend enough money asking scientists to find a problem, they'll publish papers, they'll find a problem. But if you don't spend money asking them whether the models are right, whether the sun could be controlling climate change, then you haven't necessarily spent your money well. You've got monopoly science. So we have a big problem. Looking at the evidence for climate change, we see a lot of evidence for warming. There is warming. It has happened, and carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. But what we don't have is evidence that carbon did it. And that's quite hard to find the evidence. There's specific evidence that carbon is responsible. We're a water planet. The water is the most powerful greenhouse gas on the planet. It does something like 3 times as much of the effect of absorbing those infrared rays and emitting them to space that carbon dioxide does. Water is by far the most important thing. But climate models are really quite bad at water. Let's have a quick look, really briefly, at a big experiment that hasn't been reported much. In 2005, a huge US report said this was the fingerprint of greenhouse gas warming. We call it the hotspot. The graph shows in the middle there, the big red area, that's 10 kilometres above the equator. The North Pole's on one end and the South Pole's at the other, and you can see most of the warming that is caused largely by water vapour, not CO2, is from that warming 10 kilometres above the tropics. This is the hotspot. And it was described as a fingerprint over and over and over. It would define that the warming was caused by greenhouse gases, even though it was mostly H2O. We didn't want to mention that. And what they found with 28 million weather balloons was this. Have a look at that. 28 million weather balloons looking through the atmosphere over 40 years found nothing. None of that warming that was supposed to be there was there. And they've spent the last 15 years since that. So they've known for 15 years the pattern wasn't there. They spent the last 15 years rehashing that data from 1979 to 1999 over and over again, hoping to find that there was actually a hotspot. So, ladies and gentlemen, the tally of failure is extensive. And in fact, it's actually quite difficult to sum up. They got the Arctic right, but the Antarctic wrong. Is this global warming or is it only hemispheric warming? They fail on the rainfall, the floods and the droughts. They can't predict El Niños. The largest driver of our climate is the El Niño effect, the La Niña effect, and our climate models can't do that more than a few months in advance. How are we supposed to predict the climate 50 years ahead when we can't do it 18 months in advance? So we can't predict the climate on a local, regional or continental scale. Models get the core assumptions wrong. The hotspot is missing. It's the only fingerprint they said that mattered right up until they couldn't find it. They can't explain the pause. They can't explain the cause or the long-term historic climate movements either. Measurements of satellites, cloud cover changes, 3,000 ocean buoys, 6,000 boreholes, 1,000 tide gauges, 28 million weather balloons looking at humidity and temperature and other things don't find what the models said they should. Ladies and gentlemen, scientists are behaving badly, calling people names, they're hiding declines, they're hiding data, adjustments and their methods. The Bureau of Meteorology will not let us replicate their Australian data set in full with full methods. Thank you.
Before I begin, does this adjust? So I've got quite a quiet voice. I should have had some jokes to tell while I waited.
Alright guys, time for a bit of commentary from the English Recluse. There's been some technical difficulties, something's going on, so I thought I'd entertain the crowd. So I hope you're enjoying this show. I've found the perfect spot for you because you all said the sound here was the best you can get. And here we are. The deniers, climate deniers versus the climate promoters, we'll say that. Got someone happy for the camera there. People see cameras and want to wave at it. I'm just glad you can hear it. And Ray, I appreciate for you guys telling me all the audio glitches at the start, so we're able to weed them out. I was going to go for a walk out here. Once it starts going, we'll come back in. So we'll just do a bit of a wander. We'll do a bit of a tour of the RSL while we're on a bit of a hold up. Let's have a look up the stuff up there. There we go. Yeah, cheers, Ray. I guess that's what the fundamental basis of the debate is, isn't it? The fact that people from both sides can chat and have their say and whatnot. So yeah, once it gets going, we'll hear it all from out here. Oh, I might as well do a bit of a film through here. Look at that. Look at that spot. There we go. There's the Freedom Media team. Yes, they do. They definitely do, Mr. Rayburn. And whereabouts are you based, Ray? Are you in Perth or are you somewhere out in the country or? Oh, geez, mate, you're miles away. Good on you for tuning into a Perth debate about climate change. Thanks, Mr. Rayburn. I appreciate it. Hope you don't mind me saying your name. You're a commenter, I suppose that's your name on YouTube, so I'm sure you don't mind me saying it. But I don't know how you could use your full name. I wouldn't. Or my real name. But then again, it might not be your real name, so it doesn't matter. The Victoria Cross Australian Awards, 1900 to 1969. So it looks like we're ready to go again. Got some memorial candles. Wait till they start talking, I'll run this back there.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to give you the perspective of the council. I should begin by saying I'm not representing the city of Swan. I'm just a councillor giving you my own opinion. I'm not going to debate climate change.
Glad it's not your real name. Anyway, I better let you get back to it.
Local government council believe it or not, it's a new financial strategic
This
role.
is, I forget his
I
name,
was talking
Ian.
to our former Commonwealth MP before he was a cabinet minister.
He's one of the councillors here.
The council had the backbench MP, and that quite surprised me. As councillors, we have to take a strategic view of the future of our city, long into the future, looking ahead 20 or 30 or 40 years. The next three slides are slides I showed our councillors after I attended a climate change conference. So basically it's a recap of the greenhouse effect. Basically visible sunlight passes through the atmosphere, warms the earth and is re-emitted as infrared radiation. Some of the infrared is absorbed by CO2, warming the atmosphere. The more CO2 you've got, the warmer it gets. And this graph shows the increase in CO2 since about 1960. You can see it's going up. And the temperature of the Earth is increasing, as you can see from that graph. So those are the simple facts I gave to our council. Basically, it's a real phenomenon. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports, which you can see examples in front of you, are created for government policymakers. And as councillors, we are policymakers. We need to take notice. And I read this in an IPC report. It spoke about this, and it said, and when local and regional governments and decision makers are supported by national governments, what that said to me was, as a local government, as a local councillor, I needed to do something about it. So we did. In August 2019, we recognised a climate change emergency. We didn't actually declare one. The resolution was that the City of Swan lobby state and federal government to recognise that a climate change emergency exists and action is required. Fast forward to October 2019, I was up for re-election, and in my 150 words statements, which I put in bold and outlined in yellow therefore, I said I will advocate for net zero CO2 emissions by 2050. Well, did that get me into a lot of trouble? All sorts of people contacted me about this, and they said, I would have voted for you, Ian, except for your net zero CO2 goal. But it seemed, actually, that the silent majority was right. The more people liked it than disliked it. I first got onto council with a margin of 100 votes. The second time round, a margin of 2,000 votes, indicating that the net zero CO2 goal is valid. I went along with fellow councillors to National Climate Emergency Summit in February 2020, but then shortly afterwards, in March, we got a completely different emergency. Later, I gave the presentation to council that I showed you earlier on, and then in 2020 later, I moved a motion to report on an action plan for net zero. It got knocked back because the report would have cost $60,000. In January 2021, the Sustainable Environment Strategy came to council without a net zero goal. Council resolved to send it back out for community consultation. October 2022, earlier this month, we finally approved our Sustainable Environment Strategy, and that includes a plan for net zero by 2050. And what you can see here is that the Sustainable Environment Strategy shows that responding to the goal of net zero emissions is good for our ratepayers, as it actually has a good business case. The break-even point is just 9 years away, and we've got plenty of other projects that have been going for 60 years that haven't broken even. This is quite a complex slide. It's a marginal CO2 abatement cost curve. And what I want to draw your attention to is that big red box. That's the CO2 saving from LED streetlights. And next to it, the yellow box is CO2 saving by putting photovoltaics on city offices. So that is actually most of our CO2 emission. And these are relatively simple, straightforward things to do with. It's going to cost $10 million to replace the streetlights with low energy consumption LEDs. And it will save us $50 million in electricity costs over 10 years. It's an easy decision for us to make. The next big one is photovoltaics to power our city offices. This is also, as you heard from Professor Newman, extremely cost effective. Our plan is for 2050, but the plan for 2030 would be the same, only done in 7 years, not 27. I believe we can do it in 10. I believe we can do it by 2033. Net zero CO2 emissions by 2050, and we won't have to put your rates up. As a council, we found that net zero CO2 goal will save money, and that means we'll be able to potentially reduce rates or increase our services. Now, this is not an outcome I expected from a net zero CO2 policy, but it's most welcome to me as an elected representative, as it will be easy to explain to the community at my next election in 2023, and I'm quite looking forward to that. Finally, what if it's all a terrible mistake? Even the IPCC reports talk about probabilities and confidence levels. If you've ever read one, you see every sentence has a probability and confidence level in it. Well, think about what it might be like in 2050 or 2033. Your rates will be lower in real terms. There'll be loads more trees. There'll be far less pollution. There is no risk to local government or ratepayers in working to a goal of net zero CO2 by 2050. Thank you.
What stops the Earth from looking like Pluto? It is energy from the sun. The sun's energy does change, and our climate follows. Back in 2007, when we were in solar cycle 23, I predicted that solar cycles 24 and 25 would be weaker, and that the planet would be cooler. That has come to pass. Peak temperature was in 2016, and we've had 6 years of cooling since. If we look at Australia's temperature record, it is absolutely flat. For 44 years, nothing. 2/3 of Australians alive today haven't experienced climate change. We are gathered today in the city of Belmont, which declared a climate emergency. If that flat temperature record gets you excited enough to declare a climate emergency, you might be a bit special. But not special in a good way, more in a special needs sort of way. There was a pleasant and much appreciated warming of the planet in the second half of the 20th century. So what caused that? From 1933 to 2006, The sun was more active than it had been in the previous 11,000 years. That is now over, and our world is going back to conditions of the Little Ice Age. What of carbon dioxide? The greenhouse effect, which is 80% water, keeps the planet 30 degrees warmer than it would otherwise be. So the average temperature of the planet is 15 degrees instead of minus 15 degrees. Carbon dioxide contributes 10% of that, or about 3 degrees. The carbon dioxide level prior to industrialisation was about 300 parts per million. If the relationship is 1 degree for every 100 parts per million, and the concentration is going up at the rate of 100 parts per million every 50 years, that's 2 degrees each century, and we would fry. But carbon dioxide's heating effect is logarithmic, not arithmetic. The first 20 parts per million contributes 1.2 degrees, and then the effect drops away rapidly. So that from here, each 100 parts per million only heats us up by 1/10 of a degree. And that is lost in the noise of the climate system. Carbon dioxide is tuckered out as a greenhouse gas. Its effect is minuscule. It is not a real problem. Also consider that at the bottom of the last glacial period, only 15,000 years ago, the carbon dioxide level got down to 180 parts per million. Plant growth shuts down at 150 parts per million. We became within 30 parts per million of disaster on this planet when all life above sea level was wiped out. Fossil plants from that period showed signs of carbon starvation. For plants, we are still at starvation levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The more we can raise carbon dioxide levels, the safer all life on this planet will be. The real problem is that the unhinged concern about global warming has led us down a dead end in energy policy. The renewables we see around us, solar panels and wind turbines, are made using cheap coal power in China at 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Under ideal conditions in the Australian desert, solar panels produce power at 21 cents per kilowatt hour. You can't make more solar panels with power produced from solar panels. They are neither renewable nor sustainable. They are an artefact of cheap coal power, which is ancient history, given as what is happening to international coal prices. What Australia should be doing is converting our low-grade coal to diesel and petrol to keep our economy going. That is absolutely necessary, given how fractious the international situation is coming. Each day's delay puts us deeper in danger. One day our fossil fuels will run out, and we should prepare for that day. If our grandchildren have any sort of standard of living at all, that ideal future is sodium-cooled breeder reactors powering the conversion of biomass into the thousands of different hydrocarbon molecules that a modern economy runs on. That is the ideal future, and the only possible future worth living. If we stray from that path, it is back to horse-drawn carts, disease and destitution. Vote this evening as if